welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jenna and I have been spending the last 9 months documenting my first pregnancy, and now that has come to an end. Well, a new beginning, kind of. So if you hear some cooing or grunting, baby Hazel is sleeping over here. She may make an appearance, but she's just taking a little nap right now. Today's video is going to be all about baby Hazel's arrival. So I put together a vlog diary thing of my whole pregnancy and delivery. I didn't vlog too much of the delivery just because I really wanted to stay focused and be in the moment and just kind of like savor that day. But we did try to get some footage. So if you want to see some footage of the delivery, then watch that little vlog that I posted right before this video. I'll leave a little card somewhere up here. A couple of you on Instagram have been asking if I'm going to make a birth story, and I've been trying to film this video for the past 2 weeks. She's only 2 weeks and 2 days old, but I've been trying to film this probably for the last week, like every day, but just, it's so busy. I didn't realize how busy a newborn would make me, like just staying at home. I'm always feeding or holding her or changing her. It's hard to get stuff done, but I am going to do my best to get it done today. Sorry if it is like all over the place, but yeah, I'm gonna do my best to talk about my delivery in its fullness and not miss any details. I made a lot of notes though, so I hope I don't miss anything. I did want to mention, although I did do it unmedicated, I do not want this video to come across like you are less or like somehow not as strong if you didn't do it unmedicated. Like, I was trying my best to do it because that's what I wanted, but in my head I was like, you know what, if I feel like I want it to like make me more sane, I'm gonna get the epidural. I don't see anything wrong with it. Honestly, after doing it without an epidural, I have considered getting one next time, which is a story for a different time. I just happened to be able to do it without anything. And that was such a blessing because that's what I wanted. I didn't want to get the needle. Like, I'm so scared of needles. And I also did not want my legs being numb. I don't like that. I wanted to be able to move and feel everything. But yeah, like I said, I might even get one next time. So, like, whatever you choose, that is your choice. And don't let anyone make you feel like less because you got medication. So this starts, if you watched my last updates, I think the past 2 updates, so 38 weeks and 37 weeks, I had mentioned my pre-labor, I think it was just 38 weeks actually. I had mentioned I was having like early labor symptoms, like just lots of contractions, and it actually changed my cervix a little bit, so the doctor thought that it was possibly pre-labor or like just really early labor. So this story starts on July 14th. I, at 6 p.m. was having those same pre-labor contractions. The only difference was that they were a little bit more intense. Like, I couldn't get comfortable any way that I was standing, sitting. Like, I just couldn't get comfortable. They were coming about every 2 minutes, just like they were in the previous days that I talked about in that last update. So I didn't really think too much of it. I didn't want to get my hopes up again because, like I had mentioned in that video, every time that I got those contractions, I would get so excited and then I'd just lose all hope because they would stop. So I was trying not to get too excited. We were at my parents' watching a movie and I was just trying to get my mind off of it. They stayed consistent. They were pretty painful. I was using a heat pack to try and relieve back pain. They were mainly all on my back, I should say that too. So then we got home and we went to bed and I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna forget about it, like it's nothing, trying to talk myself down. And so I tried to go to bed, which didn't really work. I was up pretty much until like 2:30 a.m. I did sleep in little like chunks of time, but I woke up at 2:30 and then they stopped and I was like, ugh, not again. Like, I was trying not to get my hopes up, but I did get my hopes up and then they stopped and I was pretty sad about it. So anyway, I was able to sleep from 2:30 and then I woke up at 4:30 with a big contraction. So they felt the same as the ones the night before, but it was like, it was much different in intensity. I had to breathe through it, and it wasn't like a gradual build. It was like, oh, okay. So it was pretty intense, and actually at 4:30 also my husband woke up and he was sick. So he woke up with an upset stomach and was sick for the whole morning. He actually called into work and said he was going to go in late, and he was working an hour and a half away. So that was like already frustrating. The whole week was like, what if I went into labor? He's an hour and a half away. So that was like, yeah, he didn't go in the morning. And so in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, if this is real, he's going to be sick and he's not going to be able to hold her. And I was just feeling bad that he'd be sick during the delivery. So I was like, I'm just going to let him sleep. Hopefully he wakes up feeling better in like a couple hours or something. Like hopefully he just doesn't go into work and it'll be okay. We'll have the baby. But in my head also I was trying so hard not to get my hopes up, because it still kind of reminded me of the pre-laboring stuff, and I did not want to get my hopes up a fourth time. So I was just walking around like doing anything to get my mind off of it, which you can't really get your mind off of it if you think you're in labor. But these contractions were coming very inconsistently, but they were all under 5 minutes apart, lasting about 30 seconds. And I really did have to breathe through them. I think I probably could have talked through them if I tried. But once again, it was 4:30 a.m. and I had no one to talk to. So I was just pacing the house, and they didn't vary in intensity. They just stayed the same. So I was texting my mom because I was like, I don't know what to do. My husband is sick, and this feels like the pre-labor stuff, but also it's much more intense. I don't know what to do. I don't want to call and tell them, like, I don't want to call and have them tell me stay home. And so I at about 6:30 a.m. I went to the bathroom and I had pink discharge. At my previous doctor's appointment, they told me that if I had any pink when I went to the bathroom to come in right away, because I live about 50 minutes from the hospital and I was already dilated to a 3 at that last visit. So they said if you have pink, that means you're dilating more, most likely. So you need to come in and get checked so that you're not like waiting last minute. I had pink and I was like, oh, okay, like we need to go to the hospital. So I woke up my husband and I was like, I'm so sorry you're sick, but I need you to take me to the hospital. And so honestly, it was perfect that he woke up with some sort of like food poisoning or bug or something. Like, sorry Josh, but it was perfect that that happened because he didn't end up having to go into work. So he's like, okay, yeah, let's do it. Oh, and I should mention, earlier I had already gotten all the bags packed and everything because I thought that this might actually be real. And I wanted to make sure it was like ready in case my water broke or something. So after the pink, I woke him up. I said we need to go to the hospital, and we both gathered everything and we were out the door in like 15 minutes. Also, after he woke up, he was like completely fine. So it was a total God thing that he was sick. Just happened to be like, had an upset stomach that morning, because then he got to stay home and take me to the hospital. So we got on the road at around 7. I called the hospital and I said, my doctor told me to come in if I have pink. I had pink, I'm coming in. So we got to the hospital around 7:30 or 7:40 or something like that. And they checked me in and stuff. They checked me in at the front desk and they had me go to the bathroom to give a urine sample. And as I was going to the bathroom, I felt kind of like a drop. And I was like, oh, is that my water? Like I felt like I heard stuff spill into the toilet. And I thought my water had maybe broken, so I looked down and it was like all blood, like just red in the toilet. And I immediately freaked out, like I almost passed out because my mom had had a placental abruption and she hemorrhaged from it. And with that, she had bled before she gave birth. And so I was like, this is my worst fear and it's happening. And so I quick like clean up and run into my room and tell the nurse, and I'm like freaking out. Like she probably thought I was insane. I'm like, I'm bleeding a lot and I don't know what's wrong. And she was like, whoa, just like chill out. I mean, she's like, was it a lot of blood or just a little bit? And I was like, it was a lot, like it filled the toilet. And she's like, okay, you need to keep in mind most hemorrhages happen after birth. Just because your mom had a placental abruption does not mean you're going to. Let's calm down, we'll get you checked and see what's going on. And so She checked me and she's like, well, good for you, you're at a 7. And I look at my husband and I'm like, I was shocked. I was maybe expecting a 4. I was expecting to get to the hospital and honestly have them send me home because the contractions were like intense, but like they were nothing what I thought labor was going to be like. They were every 2 minutes in the car ride. I forgot to mention that. They were every 2 minutes and getting consistent, but the pain intensity did not go up. It just stayed the same. And so when I got to the hospital and she said I was a 7, I was like, oh my gosh. I was so happy because in my head I'm like, whew, I'm gonna have a quick day, like we're gonna meet this baby in a couple hours. And so yeah, we got all checked in and cleaned up, and she did say that the blood was just because I dilated so fast from probably 4:30 a.m. until 7. I dilated from a 3 to a 7. And sometimes sitting on a toilet in that position can really help progress your labor. So what I'm thinking happened was when I sat to go pee, the baby's head just like descended quickly and I dilated really fast, so it just like tore a bunch of blood vessels. But yeah, the blood like really freaked me out, but thank goodness that the nurse was like chill about it because I was very scared. I was checked in at 7 centimeters, and then they kept telling me that the doctor could break my water for me to help progress things. And I didn't really want to do that right away just because I was feeling really good and I was kind of nervous to have my water broken. I know that when your water does break, it normally makes things more intense, and I was trying my best to do it unmedicated, and I was like nervous that it would just hit me and then I would be like, I need the epidural. And so I was like, you know what, let's just labor it out a couple hours and see where I'm at. So every hour they'd come in and check me because I wanted to know if I was progressing. If I wasn't, after a couple hours, I was gonna have them break my water. They checked me and I was stuck at a 7 for so long. So around 11:30, they were gonna come do a check, and if I wasn't dilated anymore, I was going to think about getting my water broken. So I did not want to do it. I was just scared that it was gonna intensify things like really fast. And I just was like, you know what, my water will break at some point and I just want it to happen naturally. So I got checked. And as I was getting checked, I was still at an 8, but I felt a huge like release, like my belly just felt like poof, and I could feel a pop. I didn't hear it, but I could feel a pop, and I was like, I knew immediately that it was my water, and just like warm fluid gushed all over me. And my nurse was like, I am so sorry. She's like, I know you didn't want your water broken. I accidentally broke it. And some people say they do it on purpose, like if they want to break your water, but I really don't think so. I really trusted that nurse and I loved her, and she knew I did not want it broken right away. And she's like, I'm really sorry, like I wouldn't have done it on purpose. She thinks that I was probably just ready to break anyway because it's not like she tried to break it. It just like as she was checking it popped. So in my head I was like, oh my gosh, here we go, like it's gonna go up super fast. And I got a little bit scared, but at the same time I was relieved because then I was like, well, my water's broken, can't go back now. I didn't have to get it broken by the doctor. It just kind of happened, like, I don't know. It was kind of just like ready to happen, so it did. After that, the contractions really did start getting more intense. They were all the way up until this point, I was having contractions and having to like move through them. I was bouncing on the ball. I was dancing. Me and my husband were dancing, trying to like just get some fun, like get me relaxed, and I don't know, we were just trying to have fun. So I'd get a contraction and really need to focus, and then after the contraction was over, I was like perfectly fine. I was laughing, we were cracking jokes, we were watching videos. It was super fun. Like I loved that first part of my labor. It was such a good memory. After my water broke, that was done with. That is a different story once my water broke. It didn't like change like that, but it was a very steady, gradual incline of intensity. I was no longer giggling in between contractions. I was really taking advantage of the breaks in between them. They were only about 2 minutes still, but still 2 minutes is a good break when you have minute-long contractions. So yeah, I was just trying my best to stay focused. I was breathing, that is my biggest tip, is if you're trying to do it unmedicated, you need to focus on your breathing. The second that I stopped focusing on my breathing and focused on the pain was when I lost it. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there was a time in my labor where I lost my control, and yeah. So after my water broke, they were going up and up and up and up, and I was still at an 8 until 3 p.m. Like, I was not progressing. And I think a lot of the reason was after my water broke, I stayed in bed, which I told myself I would never do, but it was the only way I felt comfortable. I was in a lot of discomfort, and I couldn't even imagine standing through a contraction. So I was laying on my back, and then I would switch to my side, and then I'd switch to my other side after like 20-30 minutes. It was really, really intense. It was not what I expected it to be, but it was almost better than I expected it to be. It was just like, gosh, I can't even explain it. By 3:30, I was at a 9, and this is where I kind of lost it. I really wish I could say I didn't lose it, because I was determined to just keep my cool, not get any medication. And so I lost my cool. They all said I was doing amazing and that I didn't lose my cool, like all the nurses and the doctor and stuff, but every time a contraction would come, I would immediately try and make it not happen. I was like, no, I can't do it. But you have to just let it happen, and I wasn't letting them happen. I was trying to fight them because the pressure was very intense in my abdomen, and yeah, so I was moaning and like kind of yelling in my blanket. I was trying to be quiet because I didn't want to like freak out any other women. Do not be afraid to let out noises, because that's the only thing that would get me through those contractions, was just like letting out all of my strength pretty much in these deep groans. I would say those started happening around 2, but at 9 centimeters was when it was like I kind of lost it. Like, I'd look at my husband and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do it. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna finish. Nurse had told me if I feel any urge to push, to call her, because I can't push without her in there, which, like, whatever. Around 4, I was like, ooh, like, I feel like it feels like you gotta poop, kind of. And I started to feel that during contractions, but then it would go away when the contraction was gone. So they told me to call when I felt it constantly. And I didn't feel that, but during contractions, I was literally pushing. Like, I could not control my pushing. It just happened. And so I remember at one point, I was still at a 9, and I felt a contraction coming, and I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, I am pushing right now. I was like, call the nurse, call the nurse. I'm like yelling at my husband to call the nurse. So we quick call the nurse, and I yell to her, I'm like, I'm pushing. And she just laughs on the other end, which in my head I was like, why is she laughing at me? Like, this is not a laughing matter. I am pushing a baby out of me. She came in and she's like, okay, just calm down, we'll check you, and we'll see what's going on. So she checked me, and I was only like a little past 9 centimeters. She's like, you're almost at a 10. There's just a little lip on one side that won't go over baby's head, so you can't push right now. She said, if you push right now, your cervix is going to swell up because it's stuck, and then that will make it so much longer and put more stress on you and the baby. So try not to push. Like, let your body do its thing, but don't give it any push. And I was like, yeah, right. Like, I'm gonna need to push. Like, my body's just doing it, and you just have to give it everything you have. And so I kept telling her, I'm like, I'm pushing, I can't help it. Like, I have to push. I can't do it without pushing. And so she's like, okay, we're gonna get the doctor in here and see if he can stretch it out. The doctor came in around 4:15, I think, and he's like, he checked me and he said, yeah, you're still at 9.5. There's still a little bit of cervix left, but you know what? We're gonna do some pushes, and I'll try to push it over the baby's head while you're pushing. So he had his fingers up in there, trying to hold my cervix back over the baby's head while I was pushing. Oh, so uncomfortable. So uncomfortable, but I was like, do whatever you gotta do to get me to be able to push, because I am ready. I can't do it anymore. I need to push to get through these contractions. So he was holding it over, and I don't know how long it took, but he looked at the nurse, and I remember him saying, all right, she can push now. I was like, thank you, Lord. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I was gonna do any longer. So I started pushing. Pushing was the hardest part for me. was definitely the most exhausting part. They were a bit more bearable because I could push with them, but the intensity of the pushing contractions is unlike anything I've ever felt in my entire life. I couldn't even describe it if I tried. It was crazy, but it was it was like peaceful but crazy. I pushed for about 2 hours. I will tell you, pushing, I came to the very end of myself. Like, for real, I was at the lowest point I've ever been, but at the same time, I was like, I know I can do this, but it was so weird because I felt like I was absolutely at rock bottom. Like, I don't want to make this so dramatic, but during pushing, I was like, I'm the weakest person ever. Like, there's no way I can get this baby out. There was a point in my head where I was like, I can't do it. Like, there's no way I can do it. And I was just praying every contraction, God, please help me get through it. Like, I knew I couldn't do it on my own. And I know I didn't do it on my own. There's no way I could have done it without God, because it was hard. It was really hard. And so I remember I felt the ring of fire, and they're like, there it is, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. Like, keep in mind, since I did push for 2 hours, I could see her head for probably an hour of it. Like, they could see her head coming out for probably an hour. So in my head, I'm like, oh good, like, at least I won't tear. Yeah, so at least I won't tear. Her head's been down there for so long. But I felt the ring of fire, which is like right when the baby is crowning. I believe it's called, like, right when it's at the opening. Your body stretches and you feel the ring of fire if you don't have the epidural. I don't know if you feel it if you do have an epidural, but when you feel the ring of fire, everyone tells you to hold back and just let your body stretch and do its thing. I knew it. I knew that that's what I needed to do, but in my head I was thinking, if I don't push this baby out on this contraction, I can't do it. And that's the wrong mindset to have, but that is the mindset I did have. I thought to myself, if I have another contraction, I don't think I'll have enough energy to keep going. So I felt it and I was like, this baby's coming out, and I gave it everything I had, like every last ounce of energy I had. And they're like, look down, your baby's head is out. And so her head was out, and they're like, okay, push once more, just like a little push. I barely had to push for the rest of her body, but they put her on my chest and I was like, dead. I was just spent. Like, it was amazing because my baby was with me. I didn't get that feeling that, like, they portray in movies where it's like everything is perfect, you're not in pain. Like, I loved having my baby on my chest, but I was so exhausted. It was like, I'm just dead. I don't know how to explain it. But yeah, I tore 4th degree. So if I would have held back, I don't think I would have tore that bad. The 4th degree tear is very difficult, but if you're afraid of tearing because you're afraid of feeling it, like, as it happens, don't worry. Like, I didn't feel it at all. I didn't even know I tore until the doctor told me. And I tore 4th degree, which means all the way. Like, I had to get stitches, and I'm going to do a video on my 4th degree tear recovery and postpartum recovery, but I just want to tell you, if you are afraid of tearing because you're afraid you'll feel it, you're not going to feel it. I didn't even have an epidural and I didn't feel it. So yeah, that's all. But I just wanted to close this video by saying that labor is not as scary as people make it seem. I was very scared of labor and birth before I was pregnant, and I made it a goal to just retrain my brain to thinking of labor as a peaceful and natural thing, and it worked. I just had to listen to a lot of peaceful birth stories, and I hope that this was that for you, because my labor and birth went exactly how I prayed for it to go. Exactly. I mean, the only thing that I wish didn't happen was the tear, but that has nothing to do with if I got medication or not. It's just that my body tore. So yeah. But I just wanted to say, my labor was amazing. Like, I just want to be an encouragement to someone out there who's nervous. I'm not going to lie and say it doesn't hurt. I'm not going to lie and say it's not intense. it is both of those things, but it is completely doable. If you want to do it without an epidural, you can. But if you don't want to do it without an epidural, don't get the epidural. If you are laboring and you're like set on not getting it, but you are distraught in your mind because of how exhausted you are, remind yourself one more time you didn't want it. But then if you're like, if it's affecting your memory of the birth and it's affecting your mood, just get the epidural. But I just want to say, if you want to do it without, you can. You just need to tell yourself you can and believe that you can do it, because you can. It feels like you can't. It really does. You come to the very last little string of strength you have and you're like, that's it, I can't do it. And then guess what? You do it. But yeah, mine, I wish I could explain more how peaceful it really was all the way up until my water broke. But yeah, like I said, I was giggling and I was laughing, and all I had to do was breathe through the contractions and then take advantage of my rest breaks. Even after my water broke, it was still very peaceful. My husband was the only one in the room with me until I started pushing. It was just it was exactly what I wanted. And I just want to be an encouragement to someone out there who maybe is afraid of labor and birth. It's intense, don't get me wrong, but it is the most amazing thing. I'm so glad that I got to experience labor in its fullness. Like, I've always wanted to experience it and just feel like all that my body was created to do. I wanted to feel like the way that God designed a woman's body to push a baby out. Like, that is insane. I just really wanted to experience that, like, as much as I could. And I want to encourage you. It feels so empowering, and you really gain an appreciation for your body when you birth a baby. Like, it's insane. And I was just like praising God for getting me through it and creating me in a way that I can grow a human and birth a human. It was just amazing. But I hope that I did a well enough job of explaining my labor. I just want to get the point across that it really wasn't scary, and it was peaceful, and it was fun. Like, it was fun. Of course it was tiring, and it wasn't fun at times. I mean, I looked at my husband at once and I was like, this sucks. But looking back, it was such a fun day. Like, just being able to get through that and with my husband by my side, it was a memory that I never ever want to forget. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed my birth story. I plan on doing a postpartum video, especially all about my 4th degree tear, because that has been a journey, and breastfeeding has been a journey. So, and it's only been 2 weeks, so I really want to do a video on that. But yeah, anyways, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and maybe I'll see you next time. Bye.